यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Happy to be back.
Happy to see you back.
Lot of new things from the last time. And of course, that beautiful temple. And as a speaker, most importantly, the TV. Otherwise, we would have that projector. I think the temple is upgrading every time I'm here. It's a little funny when I came here that in this temple room I've practically spoken at every corner. I started my journey there, then I was promoted there. Now I come here, it's like a musical chair. There's already TV there for the next time.
We are 360
Huh?
360
360.
We are figuring out, Prabhuji.
But it's very happy, genuinely very happy to be back here and to hear and chant about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, especially in this week which is already so glorious. We started with Ekadashi, Devi Ekadashi. We have Varaha, Dwadashi. Prior to Ekadashi, there was the disappearance of Srila Ramanujacharya and Srila Madhvacharya. Then Ekadashi, then Varaha, Dwadashi, and of course Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Prior to that, there was the appearance of Advaita Acharya. So it doesn't get any better that before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was invented, he has sent his associates to the world to set the field so that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can advent and distribute Prema Pumarto Mahan, to distribute love of God. That which no other incarnation had done to the level that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did. Srila Prabhupada Saraswati explains, Samsara Dukha Jaladau Patitasya Kama Krodani Nakra Makarai Kavali Kratasya Durvasana Nigatitasya Nirashayasya Chaitanya Chandra Mamadevi Padavanam. Srila Prabhupada Saraswati in a book called as Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Who is Prabhupada Saraswati? We have a personality by the name Venkata. Venkata Bhatt's son is the glorious Gopal Bhatta or Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Venkata Bhatt had two more brothers, so all in all three brothers, Venkata Bhatt, Prabhupada Bhatt and Tirumala Bhatt. Venkata Bhatt's son is Gopal Bhatta. Prabhupada Bhatt becomes Prabhupada Saraswati. So the uncle of Gopal Bhatta Goswami is Prabhupada Saraswati. Prabhupada Saraswati and Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who appeared externally in the Sri Vaishnava family or Sri Rangam, ended up becoming hardcore Gaudiya Vaishnavas, including Venkata Bhatt, the father of Gopal Bhatta, but primarily we say Gopal Bhatta for giving this whole Radharaman and various other books like Kshatriya, Sarthika and so on and so forth. And normally the samskaras that we do, like Garbhadhana samskar, Janma samskar, Vivaha samskar, the mantras that we say, Diksha, Ahuti, all of this is given by Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And we have Srila Prabhupada Saraswati, who ends up going to the land of Sri Vrindavan Dham. And in Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada Saraswati writes Vrindavan Mahimamrita, glories of Sri Vrindavan Dham. And then he writes Chaitanya Charitamrita about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And of course, he writes some other books also glorifying Srimati Radharani by the name Sri Radha Rasa Sudhani. If you go to Seva Kunj, has anyone been to Seva Kunj? Anyone Seva Kunj? So in Seva Kunj, if you see when you are doing the parikrama, of course, I know back in the time, now there are, it's caged, so when you do parikrama, it's caged. Back in the day, when I was small, it was not caged. And because it's not caged, you had those big monkeys. And believe me or not, they're really ferocious. They have that big, when they come in front of you and when they show their teeth, it's pretty scary. How much ever powerful and strong you are seeing those monkeys with those canine teeth. It's quite an experience. So now, of course, it's caged. But anyway, in Seva Kunj, when you're doing the parikrama, you will see on the walls there are marble slabs, and those marble slabs, verses are written. There will be 272 marble slabs, and all of them will be inscribed with verses. Those verses are from the book called as the Radha Rasa Sudhariti by Prabhu Saraswati, glorified Srimati Radharani. Anyway, so then he writes in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Samsara Dukkha Jarado Patitasya Kama. He says that in this world, just like a person, if a person is drowning in an ocean and if he doesn't know to swim, it's very difficult. First of all, if you're there in the ocean, even if you know to swim, it's difficult. Even if you're Michael Phelps, that current of water will be such, it will be very difficult. Srila Prabhupada gives a very beautiful analogy. Srila Prabhupada says, even an elephant, if it's there in an ocean or a river that has very strong current, there is high probability that even the elephant will be drowned. Elephant is very strong, but if the water current is way too much, even the elephant which is gigantic in form, it's possible the elephant may die. But on the flip side, that you have a fish. How much ever there is water current, the fish can navigate in the river, in the ocean. Srila Prabhupada would say, the current of the river is like Maya. If we try to be like an elephant, trying to overpower the current of Maya, even if you're an elephant, there is a high chance you will die. But if you learn to be humble and small like the fish, taking shelter of the blue waters of Sri Krishna, Shamasundar, then even if you're small externally, but because you've taken shelter of Krishna, who's blue, it is the blue river, you will still be protected, unlike the elephant who has not taken the shelter. So the point is not the size, the point is whether the elephant has taken shelter of the water or not. The anarthas that we have are like an elephant. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Matsarya, they are like an elephant. But if the living entity can take shelter of Krishna, then he will still be protected. So Prabhupada Saraswati says, imagine a person is in an ocean, he's drowning, and he doesn't know to swim. It's already a precarious situation. On top of that, if the hands and legs are also tied, then there's no way you're going to be safe. And now add to this, imagine that on all sides you have sharks and crocodiles.
Oh no.
Mahaprasadi, they are waiting. They will not even wait for offering. Directly, plates of thali. Right? So what is the analogy he is giving? He is saying this is our condition. Our hand, we are in an ocean of material birth and death. Our hands and legs are tied in the form of past life impressions, Purva Janma Samskars, which is very difficult to break. You see, even after a person becomes devotee, the past life impressions don't go away very fast. Even in devotees, there are so many examples. Externally, yes, when we are there with devotees, it may get subsided, but the forest fire of past impressions itna jaldi jata nahi hai. Till the time the person really doesn't become pure, there are some impressions that will always be there, and it is different from different people. If we just sit down and examine our life, you can see there are so many impressions that are somehow coming from past life due to association, and maybe some from this life also, which doesn't go away very fast. So he says that hands and legs being tied, not able to move, is past life impression. We are drowning in an ocean, and on all four sides, the aquatics, the whales and sharks, are in the form of pride, anger, lust, jealousy, and so on and so forth. So they are already devouring us. On top of that, we are anyway drowning. To add to that, to add more salt to the wound, there is past life impression. Amidst all of that, there is no way the person can ever be rescued. Srila Prabhu Saraswati says there is only one hope. If you're drowning in that situation, there is only one hope. What is the hope? Your mouth is still open. All that you can do is loudly call out to the rescue operator. Because hands and legs you can't do anything, nothing you can do, right? All that you can do is help. You can call out to for help from the rescue operator. Srila Prabhupada Saraswati says, in Kali-yuga, that rescue operator is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the rescue operator who has come down to the zoo. Have you all seen that photo where there is a person drowning in it's a BBT photo. The person is drowning and he's putting his hand up, and it's like Krishna sitting on the back of Garuda ready to take it, provided he's putting his hand up. That is our situation. Of course, here in this story, we say hands and legs are tied, but it's more of an allegorical understanding. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prabhu Saraswati says, is that lifeguard must come to protect. Only if the living entity calls out to the lifeguard. If the person is drowning and he doesn't call out to the lifeguard may not even know the person is drowning. So the least the person can do is accept the fact that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has appeared in this world to protect. And second and most important, I am drowning. If in that situation the person is saying, no, well, I can do it on my own, then the lifeguard will not even come to protect. There are two things. One, you have to recognize the fact that I'm doing. If you're confident of the fact that I am not drowning, then there's something really off, something really wrong. You have to accept your drowning, and second, you have to accept that there is a lifeguard who can protect. That is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the best way Srimad Bhagavatam explains of calling out to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Of course, in English language it is help, whatever. But in our context, the form of calling Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And Srila Prabhupada would say this chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is calling out to Radha and Krishna to engage us in their service. And it's not just to engage us in their service, it is actually crying out for their help. This afternoon I was hearing short recording. Someone is asking His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj that what do you mean by chanting from the heart? Because when we chant, it's mechanical. Most often it's mechanical. So they're asking Maharaj, what do you mean by chanting from the heart? And then he's making this point that chanting from the heart really means you're really crying out to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for His mercy. Understanding and realizing that I have no one else apart from the Supreme Lord. One understanding is we can chant for the sake that we have given a word to our spiritual master, which is also not bad, and we can keep pulling our counter beats. Okay, we are fulfilling our promise, but is that the highest, or is this the best way of offering ourselves to the Hare Krishna Mahamantra? No. We are of course fulfilling our promise. There is no Guru Abhagya, there is no we are not being disobedient to our spiritual master because we are fulfilling the promise. But a father is always happy when the son not just does what the father says, but goes over and beyond to bring a smile onto the face of the father. Right? If you have two children, one is obedient, but one goes over and beyond to bring that smile onto the father. Who do you think the father would like more? Second child, naturally. Why? Because both were doing the same thing, but one just does over and above. So one is pulling the counter beats to finish our mechanical work. Second is we're really crying and calling out to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that, my dear Lord, आपके बिना मेरा कोई नहीं है, आपके बिना मेरा ना कोई था, ना कोई है और ना कोई होगा. So this realization, one is saying it, but can be really experienced in the heart only when the person is actually hearing about Krishna as much as possible. Leela Katha Rasani Sevana Antarena, Bhagavatam explains, the only means of crossing over the ocean of material existence is Leela Katha Rasani Sevana Antarena. Sevan karna, kiska sevan karna? Leela Katha, the pastime of the Supreme Lord. And of course, when we say Leela Katha, it is Leela and Tattva, because both are equally important. If a class only has Leela and no Tattva, it's not complete. If a class only has Tattva and no Leela, then the audience is going to sleep. So there has to be a mixture of Leela and Tattva. So we see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has advented down to this world to give this process. In Srimad Bhagavatam that we see of the 12 cantos that we have, that 10th canto is considered the smiling face of Krishna. And in one case it is also considered the heart of Krishna. So normally when we meet someone, we say, he is a kind-hearted person. We don't look at the externals, we see how kind-hearted, how nice the person is. And if the person is really nice, you want to have an interaction once again. If the person is not, then you try to keep a distance. The 10th canto of the Bhagavatam is considered the heart of the Supreme Lord. And we have said this earlier, in Ayurveda, you have Pancha Prana. There are 5 life areas in the body. Similarly, in the 10th of the rasa dance. Similarly, if 10th canto is the heart of the Supreme Lord, of Sri Krishna, similarly Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is the heart of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And just like the heart has 5 life years, the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita also has 5 life years. Do you remember we have mentioned this earlier? When we were probably doing the home programs. It seems like some Dwapar
It is past life.
Past. Puro Janma Samskar. So there are 5 life. Anyone remember what the 5 life years were of Chaitanya Charitamrita?
Loop Siksha.
Loop Siksha.
Sanatan.
See, the first remember, okay, Karme. Loop Siksha.
Sanatan Siksha.
Sanatan Diksha, very good.
And Rath Yatra.
Rath Yatra, very nice. Prabhuji is in full flow.
Rai Ramanand.
Rai Ramananda Samvad, okay, one more. जो सुबह गाते हैं.
Shiksha.
Shiksha. Very nice, amazing. It's very good memory. Shri Roop Siksha, Sanatan Siksha, the Jagannath Rath Yatra episode, Bhumicha Martha, etc. Then we have Shikshashtakam prayers, and finally, the topic of discussion that we will continue is Sri Raya Ramananda Samvad, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya chapter 8. So before I went to India, where we stopped last year, I have to explicitly say it because I know if there are no notes, the evaporation would have already happened. No year and so many events would have happened. Actually, I should have put the other way around. I should have first asked, which chapter are we studying? So we finished chapter 7. Chapter 8 is Madhya is Raya Ramananda Samvad Mahaprabhu's Samvad conversation with Sri Ramananda. Actually, these books of Srila Prabhupada are so special because if you see prior to Srila Prabhupada, no one translated it into English. Right? Even during Saraswati Conversation, they were always Bengali. How many of us here can read Bengali? 1, 2. How about the others? We are all in the same boat. Now imagine if there was no English rendition of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita or the Bhagavatam, there's no way probably that we will even understand what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's conversation. Of course, it's in English language, still it is difficult for us. If it was in Bengali, it would have been more difficult. Srila Prabhupada painstakingly translated all of that. When it was Sanskrit or Srimad Bhagavatam, he translated that also. And not just a translation, because some others probably would have also tried to do the translation. What separates Srila Prabhupada's works and his books are the word-to-word translation. Imagine to do that for 18,000 verses of Bhagavatam. It's not a joke to do that word-to-word, and then to do that for Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then to do a translation, and then write a purport as to what the verse means. Because oftentimes if there is no purport, then it kind of becomes difficult to understand what's going on. But when Srila Prabhupada gives a purport, like if you see in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks about Bhakti Yoga only in the 7th chapter. Prabhupada speaks about Bhakti Yoga 1st chapter, 1st page. Prabhupada brings it, Krishna brings it in 7th chapter, Bhakti Yoga section. Prabhupada 1st chapter, 1st page, he starts speaking about Bhakti Yoga. He doesn't wait for Krishna, he directly elaborates. And Prabhupada doesn't wait. Bhakti Yoga means chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. He brings Chaitanya Charitamrita with also because we don't have time to wait. Krishna took time till the 7th chapter. Prabhupada 1st chapter, 1st page. Actually, it's very interesting. These books of Prabhupada are so special. One time there was this Muslim man who was from Palestine, and he was there in Germany as a student. And as he was there as a student, he one time went to a restaurant. And while he was sitting in the restaurant, he ordered something, of course. And while he was waiting for the order to come, there was a magazine that was there. So he picked up the magazine because you don't have anything to do at that time, just picked up the magazine. That magazine happened to be Bhakti Godhead in a restaurant. He started reading, he was waiting for the order. He started reading. As he was flipping pages, there was one article that really caught his attention. Srila Prabhupada emphatically in that one of the articles of Bhakti magazine, he had written, if you want to know God, bracket Krishna, come to me. So he was surprised. He had never heard anyone so emphatically say that if you want to know Bhagavan, come to me, I will teach you. Because most often in this world we find in the name of bhakti, all that goes around is how to extract more money. There are so many satsang and sabhas that go on only for the fact that how I can make more money out of it. But when Srila Prabhupada would speak, and now that we are also speaking, there is no money involved. Whoever can come, whoever can leave. And there is no money involved. Why? Because bhakti ideally should not have a price tag. It is ahayuki. So he read this article where Srila Prabhupada is saying, if you want to know God, Krishna, come to me. So he was very surprised. So he flipped pages and the last page there was the address of ISKCON Frankfurt Temple, Germany. So he went to the temple and from there he purchased the books because he wanted to know more about what this author is and whether it makes really sense. So he started reading. And he read a few books of Prabhupada and he was really inspired. So he went to the temple, Frankfurt Temple, and he told the devotees, I want to join. So they said, okay, and they asked the name. And they got to know he is from Palestine and he is a Muslim person. And this was the time when there was the incident of the massacre of the Israeli athletes by some of the Muslims in the Munich Olympics. So the Frankfurt Temple devotees over there respected his idea and his opinion, but did not really want him in the temple for whatever, from a political standpoint, whatever had happened in the Munich Olympics. So they told him that you can practice bhakti at home also. So he said, no, I don't do it here. They said, no, Prabhupada said home, temple, everything is same. So he understood that they are asking him to go back only for the fact that what his background is. So he said, okay. He said, but before I go, can I also get dressed like your dhoti kurta? So they said, okay. And they took him and he purchased dhoti kurta and he went. He went home, wore his dhoti kurta, went to a barber shop completely mundan. And he kept a shika. And he went to the Berlin temple and told the Berlin devotees, Frankfurt devotees sent me here. They told me join them. And those days there is no WhatsApp, nothing. I mean, they are busy preaching. They are not going to figure out whether. So I said, he come. And he joined the Berlin temple and started serving there. Eventually, he met Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada initiated him and gave the name Ravanari Das. Ari means demon. Ravanari, the demon, the enemy of Ravana. That is Sri Rama. And servant. Ravanari Das. And dear devotees, the interesting part is, he became the devotee who translated Bhagavad Gita into Arabic. He was a devotee who translated Gita into Arabic, and now the Gita that is sold in Arabic was translated by this disciple of Srila Prabhupada, who ended up reading a Back to Godhead magazine in one of the restaurants in Frankfurt, Germany. Amazing, right? Srila Prabhupada's books, not his books, we are not even talking about a book here, we're talking about a magazine. So Srila Prabhupada's books and magazines are phenomenal. I actually heard this story from His Holiness Bhakti Swami Maharaj. And this devotee Ravanani Prabhu actually left this world in 2018. So as an offering to him, Bhakti Maharaj shared this story to the world. So Srila Prabhupada in his books, of course, talks about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he talks about Ramananda Rai. And if you remember in our previous discussions in chapter 7 of the Madhya Lila, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there in Jagannath Puri. And while he was there in Jagannath Puri, he gets a recommendation from Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. What is the recommendation Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya tells Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, my dear Lord, if you go down south, near the banks of Godavari, there is a person by the name Ramananda Rai. I want you to go and meet him. You're anyway leaving Jagannath Puri and you're anyway going to walk. I have a recommendation. Why don't you just on the way swing by and meet Sri Ramananda Rai? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu agrees. Actually, that was the reason Mahaprabhu wanted to go to south. But he gives the reason to the associates that he wants to go and meet his brother Vishwarupa, older brother. Why? Because Vishwarupa had taken sannyas, and after he had taken sannyas, he was not to be seen anywhere. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course being Bhagavan, at this point tells his associates that I want to go and meet Vishwarupa. In reality, he wanted to meet Ramananda, right? But the interesting thing is Vishwarupa had already left this school. उनका निधन हो गया, वो भागवत धाम चले गए. He had already left the school, but the associates were not aware. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the pretext of meeting his older brother Vishwarupa, goes and meets Sri Ramananda. We see so many of these personalities left home due to different reasons to get the Supreme Lord. In Narottama Das Thakur's example, we see when he was young, there was a sannyasi who came and spoke to Narottama Das Thakur. Narottama Das Thakur was very young when he left home. Similarly, we find in the case of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, a couple of days back, we were speaking about Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Nityananda Prabhu to get married. And Nityananda Prabhu said, my dear Lord, you got married and you left Grahastha ashram so that you can preach. I am anyway not married and I also want to preach, but you are forcing me to get married. Why? Because Mahaprabhu's plan was he wanted to preach to those who were elite class, those who were very scholarly, Prakashananda Saraswati, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, etc. And a sannyasi can preach to another sannyasi easily, and a grahastha can preach to another grahastha easily, right? A sannyasi cannot spend too much time with a grahastha, and likewise a grahastha cannot spend too much time with sannyasi. It doesn't work out. So if the ashrams are same, preaching can be done much more easier. So Mahaprabhu's plan was he wanted to preach for the classes, the elite classes, and he wanted Nitai to preach to the masses. He wanted Nityananda Prabhu to get married so that he can go and preach to all the grahasthas who are there. And interestingly, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave this order, Nityananda Prabhu agreed. And Nityananda Prabhu, along with the servant Udharana Datta, they go to the house of a Brahmana by the name Suryadas Pandit. And Nityananda Prabhu opens the door. And Suryadas Pandit opens the door. And Nityananda Prabhu, when he sees, the first thing Nitai sees is, can I get the hand of your daughter in marriage? Na jaan, na pehchan. This is the first time they are meeting. Imagine some random person knocks your door. तो बेटी का हाथ चाहिए, क्यों शादी कर रहे हैं? आप कौन है? हम है कोई. Nityananda Prabhu says, I want to get married. Suryadas Pandit says, and fortunately Suryadas Pandit knew Nityananda Prabhu. He had heard about Nitai. And he even knew Nitai is Bhagavan. He's not different from Balaram. He knew all of that. But in that spur of the moment, the illusory energy acted such that even when Nitai said, I want to get married to your daughter, Suryadas Pandit said, well, but it doesn't match. I am a Brahmana and you are just Navadut, you just roam around. And what about the astrology? When people are getting married, you not only see the chart, you see Jyotish, you see astrology, we have not seen any of that. And I am Brahmana, I am of superior class. He tells Nityananda Prabhu, the Supreme Lord who creates Chaturvarna Maya Srishta Guna Karma Vibhakasha. Suryadas Pandit tells him, my dear Lord, I am superior in my birth and you are little maybe lower. Of course, he doesn't say that, but that's what he meant. How can I give my daughter in marriage to you? And Nityananda Prabhu doesn't say anything. He just leaves. But eventually we see circumstances unfold such that Suryadas Pandit again comes back to Nitai and offers respect and gives his daughter in marriage. And his daughter is Janavadevi. Who is Janavadevi? Janavadevi in Krishna Leela is Ananga Manjari, who is Balaram's expansion in Madhurya Ras and Radharani's younger sister. Srimati, your Sridam Sakha, Radharani and Ananga Manjari. One brother, two sisters.
She was
That's
younger, younger to Radharani?
Yes,
Okay.
younger sister. So Ananga Manjari is Balaram ji in Madhurya Ras. In other rasas he serves as Balaram. In Madhurya Ras he expands as Ananga Manjari. And that Ananga Manjari comes in Gaur Leela as Janavadevi, only to get married to Nitai, who's not different from Bhadra. So it is like you getting married to your own mirror, reflection. So Nitai, when he gets married, it's not that he's getting married to someone else or it is out of lust. It is he himself who is getting married to his own form. Right? It's he who is getting married to his own form. So there also eventually we see Nitai gets married. And he has Janava Devi and then Vasudha, and then from Vasudha there is Veerachandra, and then succession continues. So here also we see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas. His older brother Vishnu had taken sannyas. Interestingly, this afternoon I was reading, in the south also we have some very prominent personalities. The topmost of the chart is Srila Ramanujacharya. Very popular, doesn't require any introduction. In Srila Ramanujacharya's life also, we see that there was a point, of course, long discussion, but I'll try to keep it as short as possible. In Ramanujacharya's life also we see that he aspired for initiation from a personality by the name Kanchipurna. And Kanchipurna knew this, but was a little reluctant to give initiation to Ramanujacharya for the fact that Ramanujacharya is very, very exalted. And Kanchipurna felt that how can I give initiation to him, who is already the expansion of Lakshman, Ram's younger brother. So he was reluctant. And Ramanujacharya tried, and somehow it did not work out. Just like Navatam Das Thakur tried with Lokanath Goswami, and he was made to wait for 1 year, and eventually things worked out. Actually, now it's the efforts that the predecessor acharyas took for initiation, we don't even take 1/4 of it. For us, initiation comes very easily. We desire it, and we go and tell our guru we want initiation. We do some recommendation and paperwork, and we feel that is my criteria to get initiation. I have IDC, I have recommendation from the local temple and GBC, I can get initiation. But that is not the qualification. If Sri Guru wants, he can still reject. So we see in the past how all of them prayed and hankered even to get connected to the Sampradaya. Srila Ramanujacharya went to Kanchipurna, and Kanchipurna initially did not accept. So Ramanujacharya thought to himself that one way that I have learned in Shastra to become recipient of the mercy of the Vaishnavas is accept their remnants. Bhakta Pada Dholiyar, Bhakta Pada Jal, Bhakta Mukta Avashesha, Tine Mahabharata. Kaviraj Goswami explains Bhakta Pada Dhuli, the lotus feet dust of a sadhu, Bhakta Pada Jal, the Charanamrit, and Bhakta Mukta Avashesha, the remnants, Tine Mahabharata. These three are so powerful that you accept one, two, or all three of them. It accelerates. It helps as a catalyst to make spiritual advancement. Ramanujacharya thought to himself, what better than inviting Kanchipurna to my house and then feeding him and then accepting his remnants. In that way, at least I can start off my journey by getting some mercy from the life of Kanchipurna. So the date was decided and he requested Kanchipurna, and Kanchipurna accepted. And he told his wife also, Ramanujacharya at that time was married. So he told his wife, what was the name I forgot? Ramanujacharya's wife? Rakshakamba. So Ramanujacharya's wife was Rakshakamba, and he came home and he told his wife that we are going to invite Kanchipurna, we prepared and we will serve her. She said okay. And the day when it arrived, Ramanujacharya went to pick up Kanchipurna. And Kanchipurna knew this very well that he is inviting me so that he can have my remnants. But Kanchipurna was so humble, he didn't want to give remnants. Now look at the dilemma of Ramanujacharya. एक तो दीक्षा नहीं मिल रहा है, उनका remnants चाहिए, वो he is one step ahead. He accepts the invitation, but when Ramanujacharya goes to pick him up, Kanchipurna goes from another route. And before, when Ramanujacharya is reaching there, Kanchipurna has already reached Ramanujacharya's house. And he comes home. And Rakshakamba, the wife, she opens and she says, my husband went to pick you up. He said, yes, I already came here because I have to go to the temple, I have service in the temple. So if you can feed me quickly, I will have prasad and I will leave. So she was in two minds that husband is not, maybe we can wait, let the husband come. He said, no, I have seva in the temple. I have to go, you quickly feed. So she said, okay. She fed, Kanchipurna quickly ate everything. He ate everything. To the extent he cleaned the plate also. पूरा साफ ही कर दिया. And even the floor, the Shastra explains, even the floor, he cleaned the floor also and nicely made it fragrant with cow dung. तो ना जमीन में कुछ है, ना प्लेट में कुछ है. So interestingly, it's a long story, but interestingly, when Kanchipurna finished, he had a plate and then he left so that he can leave before Ramanujacharya comes. Now the point is, externally from a background perspective, from a birth perspective, purely from a birth perspective, we are not talking about bhakti here, from a birth perspective, Ramanujacharya came from a higher background, just from a birth. We are not talking about bhakti here. So the wife of Ramanujacharya was there, she was thinking to herself, yes, Kanchipurna is a devotee, but from a family lineage, कुल के हिसाब से वो हमसे नीचे है. हम घर में बुलाए उन्हें खाना वाना परोसे ठीक है, लेकिन हमसे नीचे है. He is still below us. So she did not have the mindset to accept his reverence. While the husband was yearning and angry to accept the reverence of Kanchipurna, the wife, who was respectful, did not want the reverence. So even after Kanchipurna had cleaned the plate, practically, there were few remnants that were still there. Just like you find in the Mahabharata, when Durvasa Muni comes, the whole episode, Draupadi had cleaned everything. One morsel was there. That was enough to feed Krishna. Yasmin tushte jagat tushte. If Krishna is pleased and if he is satisfied, the whole world is satisfied. And that's what happened in the last time. Some of few remnants were still there. Now the wife did not have much faith towards Kanchipurna. So she took that remnant and in the street, a Shudra lady who was there, she fed it to her. Aap le liye Kanchipurna. Now she accepted. Because Kanchipurna, she accepted. But the wife did not. Now as all this happened, Kanchipurna left for temple seva. Ramanujacharya now comes. And he comes home and says, did Kanchipurna come here? So she says, yes. He came and he accepted his prasad and he left. And then when he gets to know that his wife, that remnant for which he was yearning, she has taken that remnant and given to a lady on the street, Ramanujacharya goes mad. He goes crazy. He was thinking, this was the only opportunity for me to get the remnants of my spiritual master from whom I want initiation. And that also you took it away. So there was already, at that point, there is already friction between Ramanujacharya and Kanchipurna and his wife, Rakshaka. And eventually in that story you see, Ramanujacharya later, he gets initiation from a personality by the name Mahapurna. And Mahapurna was also married. His wife was there. And the story somehow unfolds that Ramanujacharya's wife gets into a verbal battle with Mahapurna's wife.
Oh.
So the disciple, Rakshaka, Ramanujacharya's wife, so Ramanujacharya and his wife both got initiated by Mahapurna. Okay? And both the wife of Ramanujacharya and Mahapurna's wife get into a verbal battle. Primarily it's one-sided. That is because from the side of Ramanujacharya's wife, they were fetching water and the discussion goes back and forth. And she spits venom, in the sense she has a verbal abuse, to Guruma, that is your Gurudev's wife. And Mahapurna's wife at this point, she doesn't say anything, she just keeps quiet. Because the hallmark of a devotee is in testing times, they have the ability of Pranadapi Sunichena. What Mahaprabhu says, Pranadapi Sunichena, is not just a Gaudiya principle. It's a principle across all sampradayas, including Sri Sampradaya, across all sampradayas. So she just keeps quiet. And there is a friction between Ramanujacharya's wife and Mahapurna, his Gurudev's wife. And this sparks an event where Mahapurna eventually leaves the place. He leaves the place along with his wife, thinking that this is a desire of the Supreme Lord Ranganath, and they decide to go to Sri Rangam. When Ramanujacharya gets to know this, that his wife on the first instance did not respect the Mahaprasad of Kanchipurna, in the second instance did not respect the wife of my spiritual master, Ramanujacharya became really disheartened. He became really angry. And that sparked an event. Actually, it happened in a way wherein Ramanujacharya wanted to fully surrender to the Supreme Lord. So, he decided through a Brahmana, he wrote a letter. And he gave the letter to a Brahmana. And he told the Brahmana, go and give it to my wife. Ramanujacharya writes a letter, gives it to a Brahmana, and tells the Brahmana, you go and give it to my wife and tell her that her father is calling her home. Maika bulaya. You write a letter because she will not deny the request of her father. Ramanujacharya basically wanted to send her. अब खुद से बोलेंगे तो if he means it is a Mahabharata, so he writes a letter, gives it to a Brahmana, tells the Brahmana, go and tell her that this letter is written by her father and her father wants her to come and spend some time in her home. The Brahmana does that, the wife becomes ecstatic. And then eventually Ramanujacharya comes home. And she says, do you know my father wrote me a letter? Ramanujacharya said, Acha. He himself had written the letter. And she says, actually my younger sister is getting married. So my father has called both of us. Ramanujacharya says, I have some work, I have some seva at the temple. You go, I give my regards. She says, okay. And she leaves. That is what Ramanujacharya wanted. She leaves and Ramanujacharya goes to the temple and offers his head and says, my dear Lord, from this day onwards, please accept me. That instance invoked so much interest in his heart and so much renunciation in his heart that Ramanujacharya, when the wife left, Ramanujacharya accepted sannyas. So you see the life of these personalities. When I was reading it, I was thinking this is very similar to the life of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada was also married. And just one instance of, do you want tea or do you want me? And she jokingly, she says, I want tea. But Prabhupada was not joking. Prabhupada was very serious because time was running out and he wanted to preach Mahaprabhu's mission. And his Gurudev had given one instruction 40 years ago. And there is no one who had done it. So he took that instance in order to renounce and take sannyas. And we see the parallel, all these acharyas, in the life of Ramanujacharya again, there was friction with the wife, and he took that as the will of the Supreme Lord, eventually to renounce and take sannyas and preach. And there also we see Vishnu accepted sannyas, practically never came back. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also accepted sannyas. Had his first wife as Lakshmi Priya. Then she died out of a snake bite. Adi Lila Charitamrita. Then he gets married to Vishnu Priya. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from that at the age of 24 takes sannyas. And then eventually after traveling everywhere, now he decides to go to south to meet Sri Ramananda Rai. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reaches south, he reaches down south on the banks of Godavari. When he reaches there, there is a big procession going on. एकदम शोर चल रहा है, कीर्तन चल रहा है. So Mahaprabhu from a distance is seeing. Mahaprabhu is sannyasi. From a distance he is seeing what's happening. And there was a person who was coming on a palanquin, palki mein aa rahe the. And there were thousands of people singing for him, fanning for him. Mahaprabhu was thinking, who is this personality? So much adoration, so much respect. Who is this personality? And why was that person coming to take a bath? He was coming to the lake to take a bath, and for a bath, 1,000 people are doing a bath. So Mahaprabhu was thinking, who is this person? It's so much respect and so many people to serve him. Who is he? And this personality, of course, takes bath. He happened to be the governor of the Madras province. He takes bath. And after he takes bath, he sees Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at a distance. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has been seeing him for all this while. This governor sees Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and goes to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he stands in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he is amazed to see someone 7 feet tall. golden complexion, hands extending below the knee, eyes like petals of a lotus. I was almost about to say curly black hair, but now you're sannyasi, there's no hair. There's no hair, but a shika, having a danda in his hand. This person looks at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu looks at him, and the first question Mahaprabhu asks is, Tumi Raya Ramananda? Are you Raya Ramananda? And Ramananda Rai said, yes. And Ramananda Rai, then he adds 3 adjectives. He says, Ami Raya Ramananda, Ami Dasamanda Shudra. I am Raya Ramananda, yes, but I am these 3 also. I am Dasa, I am servant, I am Manda, I am not very intelligent, and I am Shudra. Ramananda Rai appeared from Shudra background. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he saw Ramananda Rai, tears were just flowing. He was emotional to see Ramananda Rai, and likewise Ramananda Rai was very emotional. Both of them embraced, and both of them embraced each other and were crying. And all the people who had come there to help Ramananda Rai for his bath, they were surprised at who is this sannyasi, and both of them are meeting for the first time, and why is it that our governor is crying seeing some random sannyasi? Because they were not able to understand who this random sannyasi was. They were thinking, why is our guru or our governor, why is he crying and why are they embracing for such a long time? You don't embrace and cry seeing the person for the first time. When do you cry? Because when you have memories associated with the person, that's what evokes emotions. When you are meeting someone for the first time, there is no emotion. Shunyanitam jagat sarva. There is nothing in the heart. Which means there is no need for tears. But Ramananda Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embrace each other and are crying, which signifies practically this point that it is not the first time that they are meeting each other. There are emotions that are churned in the heart of Ramananda Rai, and there are emotions that are churned in the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And looking at each other, those emotions and those memories get churned, because of which tears are flowing from the eyes. What emotions? What memories? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Radharani. Ramananda Rai is Vishaka Sakhi. This is the first time Vishaka Sakhi and Radharani are meeting in Gaur Leela. They have always met in Braj Leela. They have never met in Gaur Leela. This is the first time both of them are meeting. And we are not talking about someone who's a distinct associate. Vishaka Sakhi and Dalita Sakhi are very, very dear to Radharani. And this is the first time both of them are meeting. And because both of them are meeting, there are tears are just flowing from the eyes of both of them. And all those who are standing, they are not able to understand why, because they don't know who their governor actually is. They think he is just a governor. They don't know what the spiritual position of Ramananda Rai is. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at that time, he tells Ramananda Rai, Rai Ramananda, we are Sajatiya, they are Vijatiya. Which means Sajatiya, we are like-minded. They are Vijatiya, they are not like-minded. All the people who were standing there, they were thinking, no, this sannyasi is speaking wrong. Ramananda Rai and we are Sajatiya and he is Vijatiya. That was their understanding. Mahaprabhu shakes his head and says, no, we are Sajatiya, they are Vijatiya. Who was right? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So both of them met. And it's very interesting that Mahaprabhu picks personalities who externally don't come from a very high background. Like for example, he picked Haridas Thakur, who came from a Shudra background and was a Muslim by birth and made him Navacharya. So people who are not externally, quote unquote, coming from a high background. Mahaprabhu picks such personalities and gives them a very high position to teach the world that bhakti is independent of where you are born, which family you are born, what your bank balance is, etc. Bhakti is not dependent on any of these things. Because God or Krishna is not behind which family you are born in. That is immaterial. If he can come for Gajendra and elephant, why will God or Krishna think about which family you are born in? In this world we have all this reservation, quota system. You can especially experience it when you are applying for your college. When you finish or 12th and you want to get into a medical school or you want to get into engineering. I know people who have topped NEET exam, medical exam, NEET, and they have topped that and they have a very, very good score, but just because they are not born in OBC, SC, ST, all these categories, they don't get admission. And the only way for them to get admission is donation. And they will not call it donation, management quota. They will say management quota. They will not say donation. It's the same thing in a different flavor. So Chaitanya, in this world we see all these categories are taken very seriously. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doesn't take any of that. So he makes Haridas Namacharya. He takes Sanatana Goswami, who worked for Nawab Hussain Shah, who was a very violent ruler. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu takes Sanatana Goswami and makes him the Acharya for Sambandha Tattva, Radha Madan Mohan. Like in our Govardhan Eco village, we have Radha Madan Mohan and Lalita Devi. Like in the morning during our Mangalatis, when we in the retreat, and all of us would be up in the morning, we would be singing Vibhavani Shesha. And at the end, when the kirtan is ending, we would all sing Jai Radha Madan Mohan Lalita Devi, Radha Madan Mohan Lalita Devi. Because there we have Radha Madan Mohan and Lalita Sakha deities there. So Sanatana Goswami gave Radha Madan Mohan to the whole. So he is the Acharya for Sambandha Tattva, but his profession was not in line with the prestige and the reputation Mahaprabhu gave. And here he meets Ramananda Rai, who is coming again from a low board and makes him the Acharya for Rasa Tattva. If you have learned and heard and read anything about Rasa Tattva, it is coming from Ramananda Rai. It is Srila Ramananda Rai who gave it to the whole world through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu gave it to Rupa Goswami, etc. But the origin for that is Ramananda Rai. Even the word that we say Krishna consciousness, where did Prabhupada take it from? Prabhupada took it from Ramananda Rai Samvad. In Raya Ramananda Samvad, Ramananda Rai says, Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita Mati Kiyata Vyaditutopi Labhyate Tatra Laulyam. He uses the word Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita Mati. The Mati is Krishna Bhakti Rasa. Like for example, in ISKCON when we give a prasadam example, people understand it very nicely. So imagine there is a gulab jamun. Some are imagining, for some it is already there in the mouth. तो कुछ लोग तो पानी निकल रहा है.
खीर खाई आज.
हाँ.
खीर खाई है अभी.
You have at least one example of gulab jamun with us.
Because that's one sweet I really like. Right? Imagine it's a gulab jamun. Normally the gulab jamun is always there in that
Chashni.
Chashni. It's there in that. But when you take the gulab jamun out and you squeeze the gulab jamun, what happens? All the rust comes out. It's dipped in that, but now when it's separated from it and you squeeze it, the sweetness will come out. Srila Prabhupada, so Ramananda Rai is saying, Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita Mati, our Mati is like a gulab jamun, which should ideally be dipped in the chashni of Krishna consciousness. And when it is removed, which means when we are put in circumstances where there are no devotees, no temple, etc., and when we are squeezed, that Krishna consciousness should record. Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita Mati. So only when you are in connection with devotees so much will you have something to give it out to others and to sustain your Krishna consciousness in situations and in environment where there are no devotees, there is no temple, there are no books, etc. So Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita Mati translates to Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada took this word Krishna consciousness from Sri Raya Ramananda in the Raya Ramananda Samvad. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu makes Ramananda Rai the Acharya for Rasa Tattva. So in this way we see even Srila Prabhupada had the same mood wherein even when people were coming from different backgrounds, Srila Prabhupada accepted them. One time, one South Indian gentleman came to Srila Prabhupada and he told Srila Prabhupada that Swamiji, our temple everything is perfect. Temple first class. Deity is very good. Prasadam very very nice. Everything is very good. There is one problem. Prabhupada said, what is the problem? He said, Swamiji, the problem is when your disciples are chanting Sanskrit verses, pronunciation is not correct. South Indians are a little fanatic for pronunciation. I can say it confidently because I am a South Indian. For them, that pronunciation, that oh, this is very important. And that's how the mind naturally works for them, is whether the pronunciation is right or not. So, anyway, this person, and he went to Srila Prabhupada and said, all of that is okay, but pronunciation is not correct. Prabhupada said, yes, you are right. And do you know who will teach them? He said, who? Prabhupada said, you. You will teach them. He became very happy. He said, yes, Swamiji, I will do it. But Prabhupada said, our devotees are constantly traveling and they are preaching. So they stay in the temple. So they cannot come to you to learn. I would request you come to our temple and teach them. This South Indian gentleman, he said, yes, Swamiji, I can do it. Prabhupada said, but every day if you have to come back and forth, it's very difficult. Why don't you just stay in the temple? Marketing genius. You say, back and forth, why don't you just stay in the temple? So he started contemplating. But Prabhupada said, but to stay in the temple, no onion garlic. He was still thinking. Then Prabhupada said, but to stay in the temple, not just no onion garlic, no tea, no filter coffee. For South Indian, filter coffee means
Air.
Amrit.
Air.
When he heard that, he said, Swami, I think pronunciation is correct. Prabhupada was amazing. It was amazing. So the point is, Srila Prabhupada also in the Buddha Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not see the externals. And that's a true devotee. We don't see which country they are born in, what their background is. If they are genuinely practicing Krishna consciousness and are in good standing, they are working to this and they are working to devotion. So we see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he is now meeting Ramananda Rai, there are emotions that are rising in the heart. And both of them, the first verse we see of Madhurita, the very first verse, it's very interesting for the fact that how is Ramananda Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu connected to each other? They are connected to each other in 4 different ways. Have you heard of the water cycle process? School में सीखे होंगे water cycle. What is the water cycle process?
Evaporation. Condense.
Evaporation होता है, condense होता है, it becomes cloud and that same water in proper temperature it bursts and it comes down as rain. It comes back to the ocean, the same process continues. That is Punarpushiko Bhava. The same thing happens again and again. Now, Kaviraj Goswami, the first verse of Rayanamana Sambhava starts explaining transcendental water cycle. Up till now you have got material water cycle. Now let's see what a transcendental water cycle is. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai are connected to each other through a transcendental water cycle process. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the ocean. Ramananda Rai is the cloud. Both of them, the first connection between both of them is we see the ocean and the cloud. The ocean is there on the surface. Cloud is there on the top. Externally there is no connection. Zameen Asman ka farak hai. This is real Zameen Asman ka farak. There is Zameen Asman ka farak. There is no connection. But you and I understand and we know that both of them are connected through water cycle process. So physically no connection, internally there is a connection. Similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the ocean. Ramananda Rai is the cloud. They are internally connected in the sense that is, if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the ocean is Radharani, Ramananda Rai is Vishaka Sakhi. If Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Vishaka Sakhi, if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Radharani, you have Ramananda Rai as Vishaka. We have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Krishna Vrindavan. Krishna Vrindavan is Shyama Sundar Shri Krishna. Then Ramananda Rai becomes Arjun Sakha of Sri Vrindavan Dham. If Krishna of Vrindavan, then Ramananda Rai is Arjun Sakha. If we are talking about Krishna in Kurukshetra, if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna of Kurukshetra, then Ramananda Rai is not different from that same Arjun Pandava. And if you are talking about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Krishna in Madhurya Ras, then Ramananda Rai is not different from Arjuna Gopi. So both of them are connected to each other in four different ways. If you see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Radharani, Ramananda Rai is Vishaka Sakhi. If you see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Krishna of Kurukshetra, then Ramananda Rai is Arjun Pandava. If you see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Krishna in Vrindavan Dham as a friend, then you have Ramananda Rai Arjun Sakha. And if you see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Krishna, Shyamsundar Shri Krishna, Brajendranath Shri Krishna and Madhurya Ras, then Ramananda Rai becomes Arjuna Gopi. So in Madhurya Ras as Sakhis, in Sakhya Ras, in Kurukshetra, and in Madhurya Ras where you have Arjuna Gopi and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here as Vrindavan Krishna. Both of them are connected to each other in four different ways. So externally, when Mahaprabhu is meeting Ramananda Rai, externally there is no connection. Why? Because Mahaprabhu is a Brahmana. Ramananda Rai is a Shudra. Ramananda Rai is married, Grahastha. Mahaprabhu is sannyasi. Externally koi talmel nahi hai, but internally through previous ages they are connected. That is the first point. Just like the ocean and cloud externally are not connected, but internally are connected through the water cycle process. Mahaprabhu being the ocean, Ramananda Rai being the cloud, externally are not connected in Varna, Ashram, etc., but are internally connected to these four ways. Clear? Second, we see that so second we see that so from an external standpoint we see that the cloud is offering the water to the whole world, right? If you externally see, it's the cloud that's pouring. But where does the cloud get the water from?
Ocean.
It gets it from the ocean. It's the ocean that is actually giving to the cloud, and the cloud is giving it back to the world. Similarly, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai are speaking to each other, Ramananda Rai being the cloud is speaking to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Rai Ramananda Samvad. Mahaprabhu, Ramananda Rai is speaking everything. But where is Ramananda Rai getting it from? From the ocean from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu is inspiring the heart of Ramananda Rai. Ramananda Rai, like the cloud, is giving it back to the whole world in the form of Rai Ramananda Samvad. But who is giving it to Ramananda Rai? It's the ocean, the golden ocean called Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So again, both of them are connected. Ramananda Rai is speaking, but he also accepts that, my dear Lord, I am speaking because I am getting it from you. Ramananda Rai says, my dear Lord, just like there is a puppet and a puppeteer, I am the puppet, my dear Lord, and you are the puppeteer. Based on however you are making me move, I am moving and I am speaking, but you are the puppeteer. Similarly, Ramananda Rai gives an example. You have a musical instrument and you have an instrument player. The instrument on its own doesn't make much sense. You have a player who adds value to the instrument, and then you are like, wow, it sounds good. Like if you hear flute, a bamboo flute, the traditional bamboo flute, it's very sweet to the ear. Very, very sweet to the ear. But that flute gets its glory only when a person puts the air from his lungs onto that flute. Then that flute becomes glorious. Similarly, Ramananda Rai says, my dear Lord, I am like an instrument, but you are the person who's playing that instrument. My dear Lord, I am the puppet. You are the puppeteer. So, my dear Lord, I may be speaking, it may be called as Rai Ramananda Samvad, but my dear Lord, you are the ocean. You, in the form of water cycle process, are inspiring me in the heart, and that's how I'm speaking into the whole world. But my dear Lord, I must admit, it's not me who's speaking, it's you who's inspiring. So that's the second connection between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai. The third we see is, what is the gain for the ocean when the cloud, when the ocean gives the water to the cloud and the cloud again gives it back? What is the gain for the ocean? The gain for the ocean is when the water is going back, it is salty in nature. But when it comes down as rain, it is comparatively sweeter. It's not the same salty water. So in this context, Kaviraj Goswami says, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu being the ocean is giving knowledge in the heart of Ramananda Rai. But now when the knowledge is coming out from the lips of Ramananda Rai, it's no longer knowledge, it's realized knowledge, which is like the sweet raindrops. What Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving is knowledge. But Ramananda Rai is translating that into his experience. Like for example, when we read Shastra, we are getting knowledge. But it is the sincerity of the sadhaka that translates that knowledge into experience. Similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, here in this context, Kaviraj Goswami is saying, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the ocean. He is giving knowledge in the heart of Ramananda Rai, who's like a cloud. But Ramananda Rai is processing it, and when it comes back again, it is the sweet raindrops. So what is the gain for the ocean? It gives salty water, but when it comes back, it is sweet. Similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving salt like this knowledge, because knowledge in itself doesn't take us any far. It's knowledge put into application that takes us far. So Mahaprabhu is giving salt like knowledge to Ramananda Rai. Ramananda Rai is giving it back to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the form of sweet water. Realized knowledge. That's the third connection. And fourth, in our Vedic understanding, there is a nakshatra called as Swati nakshatra. There is a nakshatra called as Swati nakshatra. What is the significance of a Swati nakshatra? My Guru Maharaj was saying that Swati nakshatra is popular for the fact that when it rains during Swati nakshatra, there are pearls formed in the ocean bed. Pearls are formed in the ocean bed only during Swati nakshatra when it rains. So here, in our example, the meeting of Ramananda Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is this auspicious Swati nakshatra. Both of them coming together is the auspicious Swati nakshatra, and Ramananda Rai speaking, that is the cloud, it is the rain shower of nectar in the ocean-like heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And as we said, during Swati nakshatra when it rains, it creates pearls. Similarly, in this meeting of Ramananda Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is the Swati nakshatra, when Ramananda Rai is speaking, it is the sweet rain or sweet nectar drops that is touching the ocean-like heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and which is creating pearls of joy in the heart of Mahaprabhu. So in this way we see four different understandings of how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai are connected. And all of this, the people who had come to help Ramananda Rai take a bath had no idea. Why? Because they were Vijaya. And Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai are Sajaya. So look at Kaviraj Goswami. This is the first words of Ramananda Rai Sabha. Of course, now we don't have time, but after class, if you can read the first words translation of what Kaviraj Goswami is giving, and then try to remember what we discussed, these 4 points of how Mahaprabhu and Ramananda are connected. What was the first point? Both of them are connected through
Each of
4 personalities. Whether it is Krishna Kurukshetra, Krishna Bharata, this, that. And parallelly, we also said both of them don't have connection. Why? Because one is the Shudra, one is a Brahmana, one is a Grahastha, one is a Sannyasi. Externally, no connection, but they are connected to these 4 different personalities in the previous age. That was the first one. What was the second one? When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is, the ocean gives the water to the cloud, and the cloud is giving back to the soul. Externally, it feels the cloud is giving, but we agree that the ocean is given to the cloud, and that's why the cloud is giving. Similarly, Mahaprabhu is the ocean who is giving it to the cloud like Ramananda Rai, who is giving it out to the whole world. But it is actually Mahaprabhu inspired. That's how they are connected.
transcendental
Transcendental.
water cycle.
Transcendental water cycle, yes. The third point we said, what is the gain for the ocean? What is the gain for Mahaprabhu?
Knowledge and realized
Knowledge and realized knowledge. Salty water, sweet water. And fourth, their meeting is the auspicious Swati nakshatra. And Swati nakshatra, when it rains, pearls are formed. Ramananda Rai and Mahaprabhu meeting each other is like the auspicious Swati nakshatra. When Ramananda Rai is speaking, it is like the cloud showering down on the ocean called Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when it touches the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, pearls of joy are formed in the oyster-like heart of Gauranga. How can we understand all this without Srila Prabhupada? if we would have read, we only know material lotus. How Mahaprabhu is and he considers Ramananda Rai his bhajan Siksha Guru. Mahaprabhu Siksha Guru is Ramananda Rai. Who is the Diksha Guru of Ramananda of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Ishwarapuri, yes. Ishwarapuri is the Diksha Guru of Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu accepts Ramananda Rai as his Siksha Guru because Mahaprabhu learned a lot from Ramananda Rai. And it's very fascinating, before we conclude, that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spent many days with Ramananda Rai, and Ramananda Rai spoke so many different things. And for everything, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would say, oh, this is external. Yeho bahya, aage ka ho aat. This is external. Ramananda Mahaprabhu would ask a question. Ramananda Rai would answer. Mahaprabhu would say, nahi, maja nahi. Speak something new. And Ramananda Rai was scratching his head and he would speak everything, and Mahaprabhu would say, to the extent, it's a little funny, to the extent where at one point, Ramananda Rai says, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Raja Amtam Sarva Pape Moksha Ishyami Masucha. That which is the essence of the Gita. Mahaprabhu says, Iha Bhagya. Aage kam. Ramananda Rai says, my dear Lord, you spoke it in the Gita. I didn't say you. Do you remember previous age? I was confused. You were Krishna. I was confused. You said all of that. I am repeating. Mahaprabhu said, maja nahi aaya. Speak something more. So that which is the essence of device is tip of the iceberg of Ramananda It's a very phenomenal conversation. It puts a question to many of the things that we have read till now. We thought, oh, this is everything. But Mahaprabhu refutes many of those things. So many things. Because he wants Ramananda Rai to speak something more. Not that it is wrong. Sarva Dharman Parityajya is correct. But Mahaprabhu is looking for something more. And finally, Ramananda Rai's his dictionary is exhausted. His ISKCON desire is exhausted. He has spoken everything. What more? He is not getting convinced. He is not getting pleased. And finally, after one point, after speaking everything, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Prabhu kahe iha hai, aage kaho aat. Till the time he was saying iha bhakya, this is external. Then at one point Mahaprabhu says, Prabhu kahe iha hai, this is okay. What you are saying, this is okay. Prabhu kahe iho hai aage kaho aat. No, after all this, from iho bhakya, it has come to iho hai. Ramananda Rai is saying, when it will be iho uttam? When will that conversation come? And finally, Ramananda Rai says something that wins the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Prabhu kahe iho hai aage kaho aat. Rai kahe prema bhakti sarva sadhya sar. Ramananda Rai says, my dear Lord, Rai kahe prema bhakti sarva sadhya sar. My dear Lord, in my humble opinion, the essence of all the activities that we do is to achieve prema bhakti under the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. Prabhu kahe iho uttam. This is very nice. Why? Because Mahaprabhu wanted to hear this. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam. Yes. He doesn't talk about prema bhakti. He doesn't talk about prema bhakti. Mahaprabhu wanted to hear that from Ramananda Rai. So this is why when Prabhupada says Chaitanya Charitamrita is a postdoc study, it is actually a postdoc study because what you have learned in your 10th standard, Sarva Dharman Parityajya, becomes a very small part of what Ramananda Rai presents in the form of Rai Kahe Prema Bhakti Sarva Sadhya Sar. Mahaprabhu says, Uttam, very good. And the conversation still continues. And they go for about 270 verses like this. It's probably one of the most biggest sections of the Madhya. And whatever Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard from Ramananda Rai. This is chapter 8 Madhya. Whatever Mahaprabhu heard from Ramananda Rai, Mahaprabhu goes to Rupa Goswami. Chapter 19. He goes to Rupa Goswami and downloads everything there. जो भी यहाँ से पूरा उधर file transfer, control C, control V कर दी. What Rupa Goswami heard, the root Siksha that we talk about, is actually a portion of Rai Ramananda Samvad. And that's why you see in the section also, Rai Ramananda Samvad comes first. Chapter 19 is root Siksha. Chapter 20 is Sanatana Diksha. Mahaprabhu goes to Rupa Goswami and speaks exactly what he heard from Ramananda, right? Then goes to Sanatana and does the same thing. But in both the conversations, he keeps the topics different. So you can imagine what all Ramananda has spoken that Mahaprabhu was able to speak to both these personalities. Mahaprabhu spends 10 days with Rupa Goswami, Dashashmaveda Ghat. And he spends 60 days with Sanatana Goswami at Manikarnika Ghat, Varanasi. 60 days. So you can imagine if Mahaprabhu spoke for 60 days, how much he would have heard from Ramananda Rai. And when Ramananda Rai spoke, Mahaprabhu didn't keep a record. He remembered all of that. Of course, we can say, Prabhu ji, Bhagavan hai. Bhagavan hai. But in those days, not those days, 500 years ago, the memory was so strong that people were able to remember. Mahaprabhu spoke to Rupa Goswami remembered. And he wrote everything. He spoke to Sanatana Goswami remembered. Without any recording. So you can imagine in a span of 500 years, the memory has gone down so much. We hear this Saturday, next Saturday.
सैटरडे तो दूर है बाबू
अभी सीक्वेंस याद नहीं है
बहुत मोटिवेट कर रहे हो So what Ramananda Rai gave to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a potion. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from that potion took a drop and gave it to Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami made that drop into an ocean. Ramananda Rai spoke an ocean to Rupa Goswami, to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu takes a drop from that ocean, takes only a drop and gives it to Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami makes that drop into the ocean and calls it Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, ocean. Prabhupada takes a drop from that ocean and gives it nectar of devotion. The nectar of devotion that we have is not the full Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It's a drop from the Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So it's a drop from the ocean, which is a drop from the ocean, which is a drop from the ocean. And that drop that we have, we feel that as an ocean. The nectar of devotion is like an ocean, but it's a drop from the ocean, from the drop from the ocean, from the drop from the ocean. Because Prabhupada realized, इतने में भक्ति शास्त्री का गुजरा do Bhakti Shastri just be happy. But if you see the original Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami had so many more things. But the origin for all of that is Ramananda Rai Sarma. This is why Ramananda Rai Sarma is so glorious, because it forms the center of all philosophical discussions. Of course, now we don't have time to touch the philosophy. But if at all in the future we get time, and I would highly encourage at some point after we have finished Bhagavatam, if we can study Ramananda Rai Sarma, then there are so many philosophical points that will help us in our Krishna consciousness. So many points that Prabhupada has emphasized, has given purpose to. And it is worthy of studying because it is one of the most important books, Chaitanya Charitamrita, in our devotional tradition. So in this way we see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes to Ramananda Rai, his Bhajan Siksha Guru, on the banks of Godavari, and spends time with him and has a samvad called as Rai and Rama. What happens next and where Mahaprabhu goes, we will see hopefully next week. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण
Any questions, comments, reflections?
So, are we not going to discuss
Yeah, I was thinking, Prabhu, you're setting the base for the next one.
No, this was drawn from the ocean. Actually, I mean, we can, but I feel it will be way too philosophical, and I don't know how many have fully read the Srimad Bhagavatam here. And I don't want to spin the head of the audience. So it is nice if we have finished Levi's, finished Bhagavatam, finished Bhakti Shastri, Gita, Ishopnishat, Pure Instruction, all those books, if we have properly finished and read, then we can get into the details of Raya. We can do it sometime, maybe not in this, to make sure we are all on the same page. We will try to focus more on the storyline, but philosophy has. We have Chaitanya Charitamrita at our home. If you have studied Bhagavatam, I mean, you know how many you have studied. If you have studied Srimad Bhagavatam nicely, and if you have done Bhakti Shastri and even given exam also, that is important. If you have studied Bhakti Shastri and also given exam, because sometimes you have studied Bhakti Shastri, exam is pending. So if you have done that, you have studied Bhagavatam nicely, feel free to pick up Chaitanya Charitamrita. Because why wait? Srila Prabhupada wrote it not so that we wait. We have to study this. And Mahaprabhu Nityananda were the Yuga Avatar. If we don't study about them, storyline is one, but we have to also understand the philosophical discussion that they have. It can get little philosophical, but ठीक है, आप नहीं करेंगे तो कब करेंगे?
No, Prabhu. Prabhu and I were discussing when we'll do Bhakti Shastri.
Yeah, Bhakti Shastri, we should do it. It is the basics of our Krishna consciousness. Especially for preaching, it will really help. If we study these books nicely and memorize the verses, many of the verses that we quote are the verses that are there in Bhakti Shastri. So many of the verses. It will be helpful in preaching, especially even if you are doing device or whatever. Many questions that the audience asks, if we have done Bhakti Shastri nicely, we can give them answers from different scriptures that can bolster the faith of the audience. कि यहाँ भी दिया है, यहाँ भी दिया है, यहाँ भी दिया है, यहाँ भी दिया है, इसका ये reference, ये reference, ये reference, ये reference. Because normally we see when we give reference to the audience, it's like a stamp that what the person is saying is it's given somewhere. Yeah, Bhakti Shastri is something that if we get time, we should. I know, of course, with our job, it can get a little challenging. It's a 2-year program. But there are self-study courses also. But if we can do it, we will do this. And I think in ISKCON, that's also a prerequisite for Brahman Diksha.
So, Prabhuji, when Mahaprabhu got a recommendation letter and he was saying that, and then the letter said that he should meet Ramananda Rai, why didn't he just tell it? Like, instead of saying that he had to go to meet his older brother, why didn't he just say that he was going to see Ramananda Rai?
So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to go to Ramananda Rai, and primarily Mahaprabhu wanted to have a conversation with Ramananda Rai, a more Vraj-oriented conversation. And if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would have explained his heart that this is why I am going to Ramananda Rai to discuss all this, then the point that arises is Swarup Damodar Goswami was also there. Was Swarup Damodar Goswami not proficient enough to explain all this to Mahaprabhu? He was. So Swarup Damodar Goswami would have said, "My dear Lord, I can answer all these questions, why are you going there?" But Mahaprabhu did not want to have this conversation with Swarup Damodar Goswami. Why? For the fact that Swarup Damodar Goswami was Lalita Sakhi and Mahaprabhu's Radharani are not in sync spiritually as much as Ramananda Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ramananda Rai being Vishaka Sakhi and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu being Radharani are the closest because both of them were born on the same day. The day of Radharashmi is also Vishakashtami. Both are born on the same day, both are born pretty much at the same time. So their astrological charts are same, which means their inclination is same, their thought process is same, their pravritti is same, बोलने का तरीका एक जैसा है, सोचने का तरीका एक जैसा है. And Vishaka Sakhi is more mild in nature. Lalita Sakhi is something called as pragalpa, very short tempered, very volatile. Lalita Sakhi gets angry very fast. Also for the fact that Lalita Sakhi is older to Radharani, older by 27 days. But that's a lot in the spiritual. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understands that the mood with Swarup Damodar Goswami is not the best for this conversation in comparison to Ramananda Rai. So if he would have told that he is going to meet Ramananda Rai, there would be 100 more questions. Why Ramananda Rai? No, why opposite and down south, this, that, etc. So he just gives a quote unquote fake reason that he is going to meet Vishnu, only so that Swarup Damodar Goswami doesn't ask and devotees don't ask.
Thank you.
Prabhuji, I have one question. How many days Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed with Ramananda Rai when the Samvad happened?
Kaviraj doesn't give a particular number of days.
Okay.
But it is safe to say that they stayed for a good amount of time for the volume of discussion that they had. It's safe to say that कई दिन साथ रहे. And they would discuss it in the evenings for a couple of hours. They would discuss. On the first day also, when both of them met, Ramananda gives bath, etc. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, we will meet in the evening after all these people go away, because Mahaprabhu doesn't want all these vijatiyas in the conversation. So Mahaprabhu says, you take bath, you have your prasadam, and in the evening we'll again come here when no one is there. So in the evening they again come back to Transcendental when no one is there, and they start discussing. And like that, every evening they discuss the answer. But the number of days I have not come across. Yes, sir.
Yeah, actually you mentioned the relationship between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Narayana. Like from, if you take from the like Mahabharata, like Kurukshetra, it is Krishna and Arjun.
Correct.
But in that, questions are asked by Arjun and answers are given by Krishna.
Correct.
But here it is reverse.
It is reverse.
So what that I did not question about it.
I mean, there is no scriptural reason to that. It's just that the Lord and his devotee are inseparable. Sometimes the Lord speaks and the devotee hears, and sometimes the devotee speaks and the Lord hears. The interesting thing is, in Dwapar Yuga, Krishna spoke philosophy, and Arjuna heard it. And in Gaur Yuga, Arjuna realized it and spoke it back to Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to confirm whether my understanding is correct. And Mahaprabhu said, Eva Hai. This is very good understanding.
Knowledge and realization.
Now, this is realized knowledge. Yes. There God speaks, devotee hears. Now the devotee realizes it and speaks it back to the Lord. And the Lord confirms. Eva Hai. Actually, we see this is the only place where the devotee is speaking. In Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, you call it Siksha. Mahaprabhu is speaking, Rupa Goswami is hearing. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya also Mahaprabhu. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya initially speaks, but after that it's full Mahaprabhu. But it is only in Ramananda Raya where the Lord is submissively asking as a devotee. It's not that Lord is asking to test. He is genuinely seeking out. He is genuinely seeking out.
But he knows the answers.
He knows the answers, but he's also sometimes when Srila Prabhupada would, in his room, when Srila Prabhupada would end up reading his own books. So disciples would ask, why are you reading your own books? You only wrote. And Srila Prabhupada would say, it is Krishna who inspired me to write. So, has Prabhupada written it? Yes. Does Prabhupada know the content? Yes. So then why is Prabhupada reading it? Because even if the devotee knows it, every time the devotee reads it, he gets a newer realization. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu already knows all this. But when he is hearing it back from his devotee, he gives it here. It's like, for example, father knows what 5 plus 5 is. Father knows what 6 into 6 times 6. But when a small child comes and says, my dear father, today I learned 5 plus 5. Father said, Acha, what is 5 plus 5? 5 is 10. Doesn't the father know? He knows it. But when he is hearing from the child, he gets happy. My daughter knows it, my son knows it. But the father already knows. The father has already done PhD, probably. But he likes when it is coming from his own child. Similarly, Ramananda Rai is quote unquote the child, and Mahaprabhu is like the father. Vishwam Gaura. He's the Supreme Lord. He knows everything. But now when it is coming back from his own child, the father is happy. It's not that he doesn't know, but he gets happiness. It's like when we offer bhoga, it's not that the Lord is hungry, but when we offer it, he gets peace. Similarly. Anything else? We'll do 5 minutes kirtan?
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Rama,
Jai